Hey gang, it's me Lloyd. We're building more of the castle today. As you can see, I already started populating the area with some villagers and more peasant houses, because this is also my survival base over on the Truly Bedrock. So if you don't watch that series, please do. That's where you're gonna see way more of this castle. But today naturally we'll be working on building more of the main piece, and today specifically we'll be working on finishing this stretch out of it and adding two things I'm very excited for: the towers and the flying buttresses. We have already established the color palette and the overall shape of what we're going for in the last episode, so do check out how to build the castle part 1, and without further ado, let's get going. Also, in between videos, I've swapped all of the warped planks for actual copper, and now it's going to take forever for it to oxidize, because I actually want all of this to be teal and not orange. Now, with this kind of project, there's always this moment when you already are invested, you have built something really beautiful, and you're afraid to add something to it that is gonna ruin the overall effect. In this moment, there's something that artists call a crisis of a blank page, where a writer or an artist can just not break into actually, starting and doing the thing that they want to do. In this situation, it really helps to visualize what is it you want to create. And to do that, you might not have noticed, but I just took a screenshot of the entire build. Naturally, it's just a print screen button on your computer. And now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take that screenshot and try visualizing the towers and the site that I want to work on today. We actually did something similar in episode 1 already. That's why we did the entire footprint of the building, to help us get some sort of a guideline here and there without risking too much all at once. Well, now we're gonna do that, except a little bit more intense. So pull out your paint.net, I guess, and copy paste your screenshot in it. Now, I personally actually do have the privilege of having a pen tablet, but just for your convenience and just to convince you that there's nothing to be worried about, I'm gonna use regular old paint that goes prepackaged with every version of Windows. Now, here's what we're looking at, and here approximately is where we will be going. Now, first and foremost, I want some sort of a new area. I want to continue this wall, and I want to continue it on approximately this tallness. Just, approximating it a little bit, just throwing stuff together. Next up, I know that around here-ish, there is a little overhang which I'm using as a balcony, and I want some sort of an area up here to serve as that balcony's continuation. I want to basically extend the balcony over here, and for that balcony to serve as some sort of a, walk. Naturally, you won't want to walk all the way up here, but it's okay if you do. I think we can cheese it a little bit. Naturally, this platform up here, that's going to be the continuation of the balcony, is going to be connected to the wall down here via, I'm guessing, 45-degree kind of stuff. But in reality, even that is a little bit too much. The 45-degree kind of roof that we did is just not gonna reach out spatially. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take the area, right, of that balcony and lower it down a certain amount. And then we're gonna take this and connect it with a roof. So the roof that we're gonna be making is now split in two. One side of it is down here, and the other is gonna be up here, except instead of that roof, instead of the second part of the roof, there's gonna be a sidewalk of sorts, some sort of a extended longerish balcony leading up all the way to the centerpiece, which I want to be a tower. Now, tower is gonna be a great centerpiece, but we still need some sort of a weight down here, something to balance out this area. So I'm planning a structure a little bit smaller than this one around this area, just to kind of accommodate us. So as a result, we're getting this kind of churchy looking end piece, and also this centerpiece tower, which, by the way, we need to make extra Gothic by making extra longery. You know full well I can build in Minecraft, and this is being drawn with a ruler and a mouse. So yeah, just have some faith in me. I now have approximate plan, at least in my head. We know what we'll be doing. But first and foremost, we need to do this little very basic looking structure with a roof and a wall and a roof and a wall and a roof and a wall. So I'm gonna start building that, and I'll see you after a short time lapse. And then I mirrored the entire thing onto the other side, so watch the time lapse again if you want to see that happening. Now, as far as this part of design goes, there's not really much different to it, except for one little trick that I used to employ every now and again. Now, for any other art style, for any other build style, it doesn't necessarily work, except maybe for Viking, but whenever you build in Gothic, consider turning your stairs upside down on your roof supports, like diagonals. It's gonna add that little spikiness to it that I really enjoy, and that I feel suits Gothic really well. You can alternatively put it this way instead, which will at least direct it upwards as opposed to outside. I prefer the outside kind because it's a little bit more aggressive, but upwards should work too because, well, you'll see, we're about to add a bunch of spikes somewhere. Now, looking at this, you will not necessarily be impressed, except for maybe with the window designs. I really like the window designs. However, you will be very concerned about these areas up here and up here because they look incredibly empty. And that is, I want to say by design, because it's not the final version of it yet. You see, these holes in the roof are actually where I want to put the pillars, the towers of sort. You know, we clearly are gonna be installing a tower up here, a very tall one, very large one, very big one. But before we do that, I want to try my hand at a couple of smaller ones around here and here. And they will provide a much needed break for these large empty spaces that we have here, and of course for the large empty roof that we got here. Now, they're not going to be taking up the entire space, for one. We actually will only be making them square-ish. So it's going to be a 5 by 5, and then the area behind it, which is going to pave over or kind of smoothing over, depending on how we feel that day. And building these, I'm actually gonna right away add one detail just like the outwards facing stairs that we just added. I'm gonna not just pillar up using the walls, I'm gonna add these little knots sticking out for seemingly no reason. This is exactly the same logic as the stairs sticking out outwards. It's just something spiky looking that is absolutely definitely gonna help us with the Gothic vibe, because if you ever look up any pictures of you know, Gothic architecture, you will quickly realize just how much of this stuff is aggressively, you know, pointy. It's like a house version of a cactus, I swear. So aside from the knots and the walls, naturally this is just a very mundane design for a 5 by 5 pillar of no real substance. Fortunately though, this is not where we're gonna end up, right? We have to spice this up, we have to point this up, and here's what I noticed with a lot of medieval to like Renaissance to Baroque to that kind of era buildings. The tops of their towers actually are of a very simple, on the first sight, shape. It basically is just a pyramid leading up to the top. It is incredibly easy to recreate in Minecraft, but also incredibly hard to recreate in Minecraft in a way where it looks nice because of how that type of deal ultimately is. Luckily, I do believe that I found a way to spice it up just so it doesn't look like what it actually is, which is to say, it doesn't just look like a pyramid. And that is to add these type of spikes using the walls and the iron bars on top. Now, a lot of builders in Minecraft are all used to smoothen these up by adding down the middle some sort of a fence post. Now, I prefer doing it without the fence post because the fence posts, they're nice and they do function for what they're supposed to do. But unfortunately, there isn't really a pure black fence post in the entire game. So yeah, you can see how this is a progression from the thickest to the middle to the thinnest. But also, you can also see how this adds a lot of the color that we don't really want in this particular spot in the building. Here's what just one side of the tower is gonna look like after we edited it the way I described, and then we can fill in the middles using the copper full blocks and stairs, adding just that much depth to it. And now that we zoom out, yeah, you can tell why I'm so excited about this design. And 3 more of these pillars later, we have ourselves a more or less fully complete roof with a hole down the middle where exactly we want to put the main tower. I am incredibly proud of this build right now. I'm incredibly happy with it. The only thing missing is the center tower and whatever it is we're gonna do on this side here, which also promises to be pretty epic, so let me fiddle with it and I'll deliver. I actually think that on this side we're gonna have some sort of a rotund front and a fancy facade leading up to the miniature peak up top too, but that's something for us to worry about after we'll do the main tower, because I've been looking so forward to the centerpiece to these towers this entire time. Basically, it's gonna be this, but bigger. The same general logic, except we're gonna use the mushroom blocks instead of the clay ones, because we already established them down here. And down the middle, there's gonna be once again a patch of the Deepslate, rising basically through the entire most of it, with some spruce up top and a nice copper finisher at the very peak. It's gonna be very exciting, and unfortunately, there's not much to explain to it. It's a tower, everybody. You'll see all about it in this next time lapse. That is looking snazzy right there. I am very happy with this build, specifically with this little bit up here, where the design kind of suggests that there's actual windows, but there aren't any because this tower is way too small for Minecraft to, for Minecrafty block people to be able to detailize it on the inside. On the upside, though, we still got our nice area up here, from which we can overlook everything else and also make our way to the tower, which, I mean, I don't know. Eventually, when I'll be walking on the insides, I might actually break through a door in here and make some sort of a spiral stairway all the way up. Now, this centerpiece is absolutely brilliant. There's actually a very interesting situation that I use on a side here, right here, and I don't know if you can notice, but what actually is happening there is not something like this, where the wall is hugging the block behind it, because that would provide this little nudge around here. What's happening instead is this wall here is perfectly smooth, and there isn't even a block behind it at all. Do you know how that's been done? Well, it's all thanks to the trapdoors. That's right, check this out. If the trapdoor is closed, the wall ends up being smoothed over. It connects as if there was a full block on the opposite side, whereas if we open it, it suddenly disconnects, which I use to our advantage in several spots in this design, and which I am personally incredibly proud of. I just feel it's a really neat trick. It's a really neat trick that you probably can use for some other, even more impressive builds, because really that's what this series is all about. It's not just me being like, hey, check out how cool I am with my castle. It's actually me sharing what little knowledge I do have in hopes that you will create something even more impressive. Anyhow, this tower doesn't need to be here, and we need to carry on and finish up this little corner of our build. This area here needs to function in two ways. First and foremost, it needs to have some sort of a block for this line of sight here. You see, for this to function as a centerpiece, we already have a block on this side, we need something to outweigh it on the other. And yes, in a perfect world, we would just recreate this entire sequence all over again, but I don't want to do that because one, it's big, and two, I want it to stay unique. I don't want this to be a perfect symmetry. We already have enough symmetry down the middle here. So what I think I'm gonna do is I'm gonna copy this bit down here, this exact shape, onto a couple blocks to a side. Copy the color palette from that build in between these two pillars all the way to the top, and then cap it off with some sort of a more miniature tower structure like the one we already have, but way smaller, but just as detailed, over at the tippy top here at the very end. And don't get me wrong, that's gonna look incredibly churchy, because that's basically how church shapes are. And to spice it up, I really am looking forward to adding some buttresses. Speaking of which, you know, I've been saying this word this entire time. I think it's about time I actually explained what those are. Right, so you wanna see a buttress? You wanna a buttress? You wanna see a buttress? Yeah, here it is. Ta-da! Technically, that's it. On some level, that is legitimate a buttress. We can detailify it, we can expand it, but essentially this is a supporting structure that's gonna hold our walls in place. I actually was hoping to fill these little basement foundation areas with buttresses too, just to detail them a little bit better. But, and I admit it doesn't look incredibly impressive, because that's not the impressive bit. The impressive buttress is the flying one. I know, incredibly funny, the word butt is being used for something very serious and architectural, but turns out it does actually look incredibly cool. It is essentially another way of supporting your building, but without obstructing the passage near it. Essentially, it's a combination of a regular buttress and some sort of an arch. It's an arch and a diagonal that's gonna support your building and allow some sort of a passage below it. And guess what? The wider and the longer we can make it, the more beautiful it's gonna look. And just these couple of lines, they do already look pretty cool in my personal opinion. But that's not yet getting into how we can actually detail the supporting pillar that the buttress is leaning onto. It's basically an extra tower that we can decorate however we wish, and also it has the benefit of being on the eyesight level. Well, not necessarily, because it's Minecraft and we still have to raise our head quite a bit. But at the same time, you get what I'm saying. That up there, you don't necessarily even see without a good spyglass. That down here, you see just passing by. But you don't have to put it where people actually pass by. Despite the flying buttress basically having a function of an arch, of an archway for the pedestrians, it also has the general function of just supporting, and you can basically support any structure, any tower, anything, any wall with it, whether it requires support or not. Because again, this is Minecraft we're playing with here. Nothing requires any support. Blocks float, everybody. Blocks float. So for this next stage, I decided to visualize it once again using the blueprint mode, which is again just screenshots, don't worry about it. And I took one from as high up above as I could with an elytra, and I grabbed one from a side. Well, first, I decided that the shape of whatever it is we'll be doing is gonna be a little bit more roundish. And now keep in mind, we're not going full circle. Don't worry about it. We are not really trying to do this. We're trying to do this. Which is a much more doable shape here in Minecraft, naturally. So don't be afraid, you can do it, it's perfectly fine. What's also important is this here shape is actually gonna be just a roof that I'll be putting a little bit in a conusoid form around here, leaving this area and this area a little bit blank. We then are gonna raise another towerish structure all the way to here and add those supports that I was talking about. So there's gonna be a buttress here and a buttress here. And of course a smaller peak here to mirror, to mimic, to kind of resemble the tower that is the centerpiece. This area down here is going to be lowered all the way to the ground and also extended, and then we're gonna use this area to create something resembling windows. And at the end of the day, we're gonna have ourselves a nice viewing platform over this picturesque cliff that also looks incredibly nice from this spot of point of view. It's especially cool because on the actual server we're playing on, around here-ish, there's a villager tower which is gonna be, for one, absolutely dwarfed by the size of our structure, and for two, is gonna eventually be repurposed for a raid farm, meaning that there are actually gonna be people down there constantly looking over and being like, that's Loy, he has some nice castle down there. Wow, Zloy, nice place you have down there. Why, thank you. You just wait till I actually swap all that warped planks for actual oxidized copper, cause it's taken forever! And now we're gonna come in and add the supports on the side, just our middle fixture doesn't feel too lonely. Now I think the best way to do this in a way where our main pillar from whence we will be branching out doesn't feel too lonely or too empty, is to actually surround the one block tower that we're building with the fence posts, the wall blocks even. Think it makes sense to tie a visual knot with full blocks around here, and from it we're gonna branch an arch towards the middle tower in a classic every other block raise of slabs, resulting in this nice bend that is kind of unrecognizable as a straight one and looks way more bendy than it actually is. Then all we have to do is add a couple blocks of elevation, tie another one of these, and from here on we should be able to just use a regular stair and a full 45-degree and still get away with looking pretty snazzy. You know you did well if you have reached the middle piece. And now we have these two supports, which we can actually connect between one another using wall blocks once again, just to create an illusion of even greater support that is there. We won't need to extend them all the way downwards, but I still feel like if we just add this little bit of a spiderweb effect, then we should be golden. Yeah, that looks pretty nice. And that's how it's done. Oh yeah! All the glass, all the windows, all the everything in place. This entire section finished. Okay, not all the glass, on the side walls I still haven't installed it because, well, that's more of an interior decoration kind of deal. Right now though, this is looking pretty sweet. Except that it has no interior. Again, it's gonna be even more work decorating this place on the inside once we're done with it. Believe you me. Right now, let's just give it another one of the pillager tower tests. Oi, howdy neighbor, what a nice castle you have. No, this is looking absolutely amazing. And yeah, that's it for today. Friends, we have finished the entire left wing of the castle, and we have learned all about the towers, the rotund viewing platforms, and of course about the contrapost, which is a Russian word for the flying buttress. It doesn't have butt in it, so it sounds a little bit more pompous. I am incredibly happy with today's video, and I hope that so are you, my friends. Tune in next time for part 3, when we'll be applying all of our knowledge about visualization, texturization, all this stuff to this remaining area, to the grand hall, and, you know, what's there on the left wing, because the left wing is incredibly truncated comparatively, but there's a reason for that, to believe you me. Thank you everybody so much for watching. This has been ZloyXP, this has been Truly Bedrock, which is the server I've been recording this on. Do check out my full Truly Bedrock Let's Play, where I build more of the, you know, aerial stuff around the castle, and where I'll be actually living inside this thing and decorating it on the inside. But that's gonna be it for today. Thank you everybody so much for watching. To be continued. Have a good one. Bye bye.